My Nanny Was a Predator. Chapter 1. The Nanny Hunt. Single Mother. Marissa Feldman had never thought finding childcare in New York City would feel like auditioning contestants for a reality show. Yet here she was, 3 months postpartum, sitting in her living room surrounded by resumes that smelled faintly of kale and lavender. The first nanny candidate had insisted Stephen, her newborn son, should be raised on a strict vegan diet. Babies thrive on green juice, the woman said, holding up a mason jar like it was holy water. Stephen spat up on her blouse in response. The second candidate was a male grad student who believed childcare was a vibe. He wore headphones during the interview and nodded solemnly when Stephen cried, as though the baby's wail was a deep track only he could appreciate. The third candidate was a yoga instructor who tried to teach Stephen baby downward dog. Stephen, who could barely lift his head, collapsed face first into his blanket. Marissa sighed. Is this really the best New York has to offer? Her laptop pinged. A new ad had appeared in her search results, glowing like a neon sign at 3 a.m. Predator Care Givers, LLC. Apex Protection Meets Tender Love. She laughed at first. Then she didn't. The testimonials were oddly convincing. My toddler hasn't had a single tantrum since our predator nanny arrived. He's too busy learning tactical maneuvers. Crime in our neighborhood dropped 80% after Clisheria started walking my twins to school. Yes, she has mandibles. No, she doesn't eat the children. Marissa rubbed her temples. I can't believe I'm even considering this. Stephen gurgled from his bassinet as if to say, Mom, maybe give it a shot. She clicked Request Consultation. Chapter 2. The Interview. The next morning, the building's elevator, usually broken, arrived instantly. The super, who hadn't fixed a thing in years, was suddenly polishing the lobby floor like it was the Taj Mahal. And then the doors opened. Clisheria stepped out, 7 feet tall, armored like a gladiator, spikes poking out of her back. Her mandibles clicked politely like castanets of doom. She wore a tailored blazer over battle armor, as if she had just come from a board meeting where someone had been vaporized for poor performance. Marissa nearly fainted. Stephen squealed with delight. Clisheria crouched, lowering herself to eye level with the baby. The offspring accepts me, she said, in a voice that was both terrifying and oddly soothing. Marissa stammered. You talk. Of course, I majored in early childhood development and hunting. Stephen reached out, grabbed one of her claws, and cooed. Marissa blinked. Well, that's promising. Clisheria straightened, towering over the room. I will protect the child. I will nurture the child, and I will ensure the laundry room is always empty when you need it. Marissa had no idea what that meant, but for the first time in weeks, she felt a flicker of hope. She gestured toward the couch. Please, sit. Let's talk about the job. Clisheria sat carefully, armor creaking, claws folded neatly in her lap. She produced a folder of references, each one glowing with praise. Marissa skimmed, then looked up. Do you cook? Clisheria nodded. I prepare meals high in protein and low in fear. I also excel at laundry. The machines obey me. Stephen squealed again, kicking his legs. Marissa tried again. And discipline? Babies can be challenging. Clicheria's eyes glowed faintly. I do not raise my voice. I simply loom. Stephen clapped his tiny hands as if applauding. Marissa exhaled. Okay, you're hired. Clisheria rose, towering over the room. Excellent. I will begin immediately. And just like that, Marissa realized she had hired an apex predator as her live-in nanny. Chapter 3. The First Night. Marissa had never felt so nervous about bedtime. Hiring a nanny was one thing. Hiring a 7-foot alien apex predator with mandibles was another. She hovered in the doorway of Stephen's nursery, clutching a baby monitor like it was a lifeline. Clisheria stood beside the crib, her armor gleaming faintly in the nightlight. Stephen wriggled happily, reaching for her claw. Clisheria lowered herself, mandibles clicking softly. The offspring requires rest. I will initiate the ritual. Marissa blinked. Ritual? Clisheria produced a small device from her belt. It looked suspiciously like a plasma blade, but when she pressed a button, it emitted a gentle hum and projected a soft glow across the room. Stephen's eyes widened. He giggled. Clisheria began to chant. The sound was deep, resonant, echoing like a war song carried through a canyon. Yet somehow it was soothing. Stephen's eyelids drooped, his tiny fists unclenched. Within minutes, he was asleep. Marissa whispered, You sing? Clisheria tilted her head. It is a lullaby of my people, traditionally performed before battle, but it also calms infants. Marissa didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She tiptoed back to her bedroom, baby monitor pressed to her ear. For the first time in weeks, Stephen slept soundly. No fussing, no midnight cries, just peaceful breathing. Marissa lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. What have I done? She thought. I've hired a predator to watch my child. Then she remembered the way Stephen had smiled, the way he had drifted off without a fight. She exhaled. Maybe this wasn't such a terrible idea after all. Meanwhile, in the nursery, Clisheria stood guard. She didn't sit. She didn't sleep. She simply loomed, scanning the shadows with infrared vision. A draft crept through the window. Clisheria growled softly, adjusted the blinds, and muttered, No threat shall pass. Stephen snored gently, oblivious. At 2 a.m., Marissa crept back to check. She found Clisheria still standing, perfectly still, like a statue carved from nightmare and steel. Don't you ever rest? Marissa whispered. Clisheria turned her glowing eyes toward her. Rest is for the weak. The offspring is safe. That is all that matters. Marissa shivered, but for the first time since Stephen was born, she felt secure. She padded back to bed, realizing she had just hired the most terrifying babysitter in New York City. And maybe the best. Chapter 4. The Loft. By the next morning, Marissa realized Clisheria wasn't just a nanny. She was a force of nature. The building's super, who had spent the last 5 years perfecting the art of ignoring repair requests, suddenly appeared at Marissa's door with a clipboard. He was sweating, smiling, and speaking in complete sentences. Miss Feldman, he said nervously, glancing over his shoulder as if someone or something was watching. We've decided to, expedite repairs, starting with the loft apartment upstairs. It's available for your nanny. Marissa blinked. You're giving her her own loft. The super nodded so quickly his neck cracked. Yes. Rent-free, utilities included, and, we'll fix the elevator. Permanently. Marissa almost laughed. The elevator had been broken so often she'd stopped believing it was real. Clisheria moved in that afternoon. Her loft was transformed overnight. Reinforced steel doors, blackout curtains, and a faint hum of alien technology that made the neighbors whisper. She decorated with trophies, strange skulls, glowing crystals, and what looked suspiciously like a plasma cannon mounted above the couch. Stephen loved it. He crawled across the floor, giggling at the strange artifacts. Clisheria followed, mandibles clicking softly, making sure he didn't touch anything that might vaporize him. Marissa stood in the doorway, stunned. This is cozy, in a terrifying way. Clisheria nodded. It is suitable. The offspring will be safe here, and the laundry room will remain empty. Marissa frowned. You keep saying that. What does it mean? Clicheria's eyes glowed faintly. I have spoken to the machines. They will obey. Within days, the building changed. The elevator arrived instantly, every time. No more waiting. No more out-of-order signs. Residents whispered that the cables had been threatened into compliance. The laundry room, once a battlefield of abandoned socks and passive-aggressive notes, was mysteriously vacant whenever Marissa arrived. She never saw anyone else inside. The machines hummed happily, as if grateful to serve. Even the hallways smelled cleaner. The super scrubbed the floors, painted the walls, and fixed leaks that had been ignored for years. Neighbors noticed. It's like magic, said Mrs. Kowalski from 4B, clutching her groceries. Ever since that tall lady moved in, everything works. Another neighbor muttered, Don't mess with the Feldmans. Their babysitter has claws. Marissa couldn't deny it. Life was easier. Repairs happened instantly. The elevator was reliable. The laundry room was hers alone. And Stephen? He was thriving. He slept soundly, giggled constantly, and seemed to understand Clicheria's strange lullabies. Marissa leaned against the window one evening, watching the city lights. She whispered, I think I might actually survive motherhood. Behind her, Clisheria loomed silently, sipping chamomile tea from a mug that read, World's Best Nanny. Chapter 5. The Park Incident. Central Park was supposed to be peaceful. Joggers, dog walkers, tourists with cameras, all of them weaving around strollers and pigeons. For Marissa, though, it had always been stressful. New York wasn't exactly famous for its safety, and she hated the idea of pushing Stephen's stroller through crowds of strangers. But with Clisheria at her side, she felt oddly invincible. Clisheria walked beside the stroller, mandibles clicking softly, scanning the park with infrared vision. She wore her usual combination of tailored blazer and battle armor, which made her look like the world's most terrifying babysitter. Stephen babbled happily, clutching his rattle. Marissa exhaled. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I feel safe. Clisheria nodded. The offspring is under my protection. No threat shall pass. They reached a quiet path near the fountain. That's when 3 men stepped out from behind the trees. Hoodies, knives, the kind of opportunists who thought a stroller meant easy prey. Hey, lady, one of them sneered. Hand over your purse. Marissa froze. Her heart raced. She gripped the stroller handle tighter. Clisheria straightened. 7 feet of armored menace. Her mandibles clicked like castanets of doom. The muggers hesitated. One whispered, What the hell is that? Clisheria growled, low and resonant, a sound that vibrated through the pavement. Leave. Now. Stephen giggled, as if he thought this was the funniest show he'd ever seen. The men glanced at each other. One dropped his knife. Another muttered, Nope. Nope, nope, nope. They bolted, sprinting across the park, disappearing into the crowd. Later, they would book one-way tickets out of New York, convinced the city had become too dangerous, not because of crime, but because of nannies. Marissa stood frozen, clutching her purse. You didn't even touch them. Clisheria tilted her head. Looming is sufficient. Stephen burped happily. Marissa laughed nervously. I guess this works. Clisheria crouched beside the stroller, mandibles clicking softly. The offspring enjoyed the encounter. He will grow strong. Marissa shook her head, half in disbelief, half in relief. For the first time, she realized she could take her son anywhere in the city, as long as Clisheria was there. That afternoon, word spread. Joggers whispered. Dog walkers stared. Parents pulled their children closer. Did you see that? Someone muttered. She scared off 3 guys without lifting a finger. Another replied, Don't mess with the Feldmans. Their nanny has tusks. Marissa pushed the stroller home, Clisheria looming beside her. She felt lighter, safer, almost smug. For once, New York City didn't feel overwhelming. It felt like hers. Chapter 6. Mommy's Night Out. Marissa hadn't been out in months. Her friends texted constantly, girls' night, drinks, karaoke. She always declined, citing exhaustion, childcare, or the vague terror of leaving her baby alone. But now she had Clisheria. "Are you sure you'll be okay?" Marissa asked, hovering in the doorway with her coat half on. Clisheria loomed beside the crib, mandibles clicking softly. "The offspring is secure. Go. Socialize. Return when ready." Stephen giggled, clutching his rattle. Marissa hesitated. "He usually wakes up around midnight. He gets fussy." Clisheria tilted her head. "He will not wake. My lullabies are effective. My looming is absolute." Marissa laughed nervously. "Okay, fine. I'll go." The bar was only 3 blocks away, but it felt like another planet. Music thumped, glasses clinked, and her friends squealed when she walked in. "Marissa, you made it." She smiled, sliding into a booth. "Yeah, I finally found a nanny." Her friends leaned in. "What's she like?" Marissa hesitated. "Tall, very protective." They laughed. "Protective is good. You deserve a break." For the first time in months, Marissa sipped a cocktail without guilt. Meanwhile, back at the apartment, Clisheria was multitasking. She sat cross-legged on the floor, sharpening a plasma blade while reading Goodnight Moon aloud. Her voice was deep, resonant, echoing like a war chant. Stephen, tucked in his crib, listened intently, eyes wide. "Good night, stars," Clisheria intoned. "Good night, air. Good night, plasma cannon." Stephen giggled, drifting into sleep. Clisheria set the book aside, scanning the apartment with infrared vision. She detected no threats. She sipped chamomile tea from her world's best nanny mug, mandibles clicking softly. Marissa returned at midnight, bracing herself for chaos. Instead, she found Stephen asleep, the apartment spotless, and Clisheria humming quietly while polishing her armor. "You're back," Clisheria said. "The offspring did not stir. The dwelling is secure." Marissa blinked. "You cleaned?" Clisheria nodded. "The machines obey me." Marissa laughed, dropping her purse. "I don't know whether to be grateful or terrified." Stephen snored gently. Marissa whispered, "Thank you." Clisheria replied, "It is the way of my people. Protect the young and keep the laundry room empty." Chapter 7. The PTA Meeting. Marissa had dreaded the PTA ever since Stephen was born. The other parents were competitive, judgmental, and armed with Pinterest boards. They debated Montessori toys versus flashcards, organic snacks versus gluten-free snacks, and whether screen time was the devil or a necessary evil. Now, for the first time, she was walking into a meeting with Clisheria at her side. The room fell silent. Clisheria ducked slightly to fit through the doorway, mandibles clicking softly, battle armor gleaming beneath her tailored blazer. She carried Stephen's diaper bag like it was a tactical supply kit. Marissa whispered, "Maybe just sit quietly." Clisheria nodded. "I will observe and loom." The PTA president, a woman named Denise with a permanent smile that could cut glass, cleared her throat. "Welcome, parents. Tonight we'll discuss playground safety, snack policies, and fundraising for new art supplies." One mom raised her hand. "I think we should ban juice boxes. Too much sugar." Another chimed in. "We should install more cameras around the playground." Clisheria's eyes glowed faintly. She stood. "Cameras are unnecessary. I will patrol." The room froze. Denise laughed nervously. Oh, thank you, but we usually hire security. Clisheria tilted her head. Security is weak. I am not. Stephen, perched on Marissa's lap, clapped his tiny hands. The meeting spiraled. Parents debated snacks, toys, and fundraising. Clisheria listened, mandibles clicking softly, until one father suggested cutting back on recess. Clisheria rose again. Children require play. It strengthens their tactical awareness. Denying recess is dishonorable. The father gulped. Ah, right. More recess. Definitely. Denise scribbled notes furiously. Okay, so, more recess. And, Clisheria will be our safety chair. The room nodded unanimously. No one wanted to argue with the 7-foot predator looming in the corner. Afterward, parents whispered in the hallway. Did you see her? One mom muttered. She made the cameras obsolete. Another replied, forget cameras. Forget juice boxes. I just want her on my side. Marissa walked home with Stephen and Clisheria, stunned. You just took over the PTA. Clisheria nodded. It is the way of my people. Protect the young and ensure recess. Stephen giggled, babbling happily. Marissa shook her head, half amused, half terrified. For the first time, she realized her nanny wasn't just changing her life. She was changing the entire neighborhood. Chapter 8. The Elevator Effect. For years, the elevator in Marissa's building had been a running joke. It broke down weekly, trapping residents between floors, forcing them to climb endless flights of stairs with groceries and strollers. The super always shrugged, muttering, It's New York, what do you expect? But ever since Clisheria moved in, the elevator had become flawless. Marissa noticed it first when she returned from the PTA meeting. She pressed the button, expecting the usual groan and delay. Instead, the doors slid open instantly, smooth and silent, as if the elevator had been waiting just for her. She stepped inside, stroller rolling easily, Clisheria looming beside her. The elevator hummed happily, lights glowing brighter than usual. Marissa frowned. This thing hasn't worked properly in years. What did you do? Clisheria tilted her head, mandibles clicking softly. I threatened the cables. They obey. Marissa blinked. You threatened the elevator? Clisheria nodded. Machines respect dominance. They fear rust. I reminded them of their purpose. Stephen giggled, clapping his tiny hands as the elevator glided upward without a single jolt. Word spread quickly. Mrs. Kowalski from 4B whispered to her neighbor, It's like magic. The elevator comes instantly now. No waiting. No breaking down. Another resident muttered, Don't mess with the Feldmans. Their nanny has a plasma cannon. Even the elevator listens. The effect rippled through the building. The lights stopped flickering. The water pressure improved. The trash chute no longer smelled like a rotted corpse. It was as if the entire infrastructure had been cowed into obedience. Marissa marveled at the transformation. I've lived here for years, and suddenly everything works. It's like the building's afraid of you. Clisheria sipped chamomile tea from her world's best nanny mug. Fear is efficient. One evening, Marissa stepped into the elevator with Stephen. A neighbor rushed in behind her, panting. I can't believe it. I pressed the button and it came right away. Clisheria loomed silently in the corner. The neighbor froze, eyes wide, then whispered, Thank you. Clisheria inclined her head. Gratitude is unnecessary. The machines obey. Stephen burped happily. Marissa leaned against the stroller, half amused, half terrified. Her building had become a paradise of functioning utilities, all because her nanny had decided to loom at the infrastructure. For the first time in years, she didn't dread coming home. Chapter 9. The Ivy League Baby. Marissa had always joked that Stephen was advanced for his age. He babbled early, clapped on cue, and seemed to understand Clisheria's lullabies, even though they sounded like war chants echoing through a canyon. But nothing could have prepared her for the letter that arrived one morning. It wasn't a letter, really. It was a stack, a tower of envelopes, each embossed with a different Ivy League crest. Harvard, Yale, Princeton, Columbia, Dartmouth, Brown, Cornell, Penn. Marissa stared at the pile on her kitchen table. This has to be a mistake. Clisheria loomed behind her, sipping chamomile tea from her world's best nanny mug. It is no mistake. The offspring has been accepted. Marissa laughed nervously. He's 9 months old. Stephen gurgled, smearing applesauce across his high-chair tray. Clisheria tilted her head. The offspring demonstrates tactical awareness. He recognizes looming. He responds to plasma lullabies. The universities have acknowledged his potential. Marissa tore open the Harvard envelope. "Dear Mr. Feldman," it read, "we are pleased to inform you of your acceptance into Harvard University. We recognize your extraordinary aptitude in advanced tactical block stacking and your fluency in Predator dialect. We look forward to welcoming you to campus." Marissa dropped the letter. They admitted him for stacking blocks? Clisheria nodded. His fortresses are structurally sound, better than most graduate students. The news spread quickly. Neighbors whispered in the hallway. "Did you hear? The Feldman baby got into Harvard." Another replied, "Not just Harvard, all of them. Every Ivy League. He's 9 months old." Mrs. Kowalski from 4B shook her head. "Don't mess with the Feldmans. Their nanny has connections. Even the admissions offices listen." Marissa sat at the table, overwhelmed. "What am I supposed to do? He can't even walk yet." Clisheria crouched beside Stephen, mandibles clicking softly. "He will walk. He will run. He will conquer. The Ivy League is merely the beginning." Stephen burped happily, smearing more applesauce across his acceptance letters. That evening, Marissa tucked Stephen into bed, staring at the stack of envelopes. She whispered, "I just wanted a nanny. Now I have a baby who's apparently going to college before kindergarten." Clisheria loomed in the doorway, eyes glowing faintly. "It is the way of my people. Protect the young, elevate their status, and keep the laundry room empty." Marissa laughed, shaking her head. "I guess I should start saving for tuition." Clisheria shook her head. "There is no need. The offspring has been given what the educational institutions call a free ride." Stephen snored gently, dreaming of ivy-covered walls and plasma cannons. Chapter 10. The Grocery Store Run. Trader Joe's was supposed to be simple, a quick trip for baby formula, snacks, and maybe a frozen pizza. But with Clisheria, nothing was simple. Marissa pushed the cart. Stephen perched in the seat, babbling happily. Clisheria walked beside them, towering over the aisles, mandibles clicking softly as she scanned the shelves, like a general surveying a battlefield. "Formula aisle," Marissa muttered, steering the cart. "We just need the regular brand." Clisheria crouched, examining the options. "This one contains more protein. This one contains less fear. Choose wisely." Marissa blinked. "Less fear?" Clisheria nodded. "Infants sense weakness in formula. The offspring requires strength." Stephen squealed, reaching for the box with cartoon animals. Clisheria handed it to him. "The offspring has chosen. It is acceptable." The grocery store was crowded. Shoppers jostled carts, muttered about prices, and fought over the last box of pumpkin waffles. A man tried to cut in line at the checkout. He shoved past Marissa, muttering, "I'm in a hurry, lady." Clisheria loomed, 7 feet of armored menace. Her mandibles clicked like castanets of doom. The man froze. Sorry. My mistake." He backed away, apologizing to the entire store, then abandoned his cart and fled. Stephen clapped his tiny hands, delighted. Word spread quickly through the aisles. "Don't mess with that mom," someone whispered. "Her nanny has a ceremonial dagger." Another muttered, "I swear the freezer section bowed when she walked past." At the checkout, the cashier trembled as Clisheria placed items on the conveyor belt with military precision. Formula, applesauce, plasma blade polish. Paper or plastic?" the cashier stammered. Clisheria tilted her head. "Neither. The offspring prefers tactical satchels." Marissa laughed nervously. "We'll just take reusable bags." On the way out, Stephen babbled happily, clutching his formula box. Marissa exhaled, half amused, half exhausted. "I can't believe grocery shopping feels like a military operation now." Clisheria loomed beside her, eyes glowing faintly. "Every mission is important. The offspring thrives, the store is secure, and the machines obey." Marissa shook her head, smiling despite herself. For the first time, she realized errands weren't stressful anymore. With Clisheria, even Trader Joe's was safe. Chapter 11. Baby Boot Camp. By now, Stephen wasn't just thriving, he was evolving. His babbles had taken on a strange rhythm, almost like the guttural cadence of Clisheria's war chants. He clapped in patterns that resembled tactical signals. And when Marissa tried to play peekaboo, Stephen responded with a maneuver that looked suspiciously like a feint. Marissa sat on the couch, watching her son stack blocks into a fortress with defensive walls and a central tower. "He's 9 months old," she muttered. "He shouldn't know how to build a citadel." Clisheria loomed beside him, mandibles clicking softly. "The offspring learns quickly. He is ready for training." Marissa blinked. "Training? He's a baby." Clisheria tilted her head. "Babies are recruits. Playdates are battle simulations. The offspring must be prepared." The next weekend, Clisheria organized what she called Baby Boot Camp in the building's common room. Parents arrived with strollers, diaper bags, and confused expressions. Clisheria had set up obstacle courses made of foam mats, tunnels, and rattles that doubled as tactical signaling devices. Stephen crawled through the course with military precision, pausing only to giggle at a stuffed giraffe. Other babies followed, some crying, some drooling, all bewildered. Clisheria barked commands in predator dialect. The babies responded instinctively, crawling faster, stacking blocks into defensive formations, and wielding teething rings like weapons. Marissa covered her face. "Oh my God, she's turning playdates into war games." The parents whispered nervously. "Is this safe?" one asked. Another muttered, "Don't mess with the Feldmans. Their nanny has infrared vision, and apparently runs a baby army." By the end of the session, Stephen was grinning, his fortress complete. Clisheria crouched beside him, mandibles clicking in approval. "The offspring is strong. The others will follow." Marissa sighed, half amused, half terrified. "I just wanted him to learn peekaboo." Clisheria replied, "Peekaboo is a feint. The offspring prefers ambush tactics." Stephen burped happily, gnawing on his tactical teething ring. Chapter 12. The Babysitter Wars. It started with whispers in the hallway. Mrs. Kowalski from 4B leaned over her grocery bags and muttered, "Did you hear? The Feldman baby built a fortress out of blocks. With defensive walls, he's 9 months old." Another neighbor replied, "It's that nanny. She's not human. She's something else." By the end of the week, the whispers had spread beyond the building. Parents at the playground, moms at the coffee shop, dads at the gym, all talking about the Feldman's nanny with tusks. Soon, demand skyrocketed. Predator Caregivers, LLC, was flooded with calls. Parents begged for apex predator nannies of their own. "My toddler throws tantrums," one mother pleaded. "Can you send someone who looms?" Another father shouted into his phone, "I don't care if she has mandibles. Just get me one before preschool starts." Within days, New York playgrounds were transformed. Strollers were pushed by towering figures in battle armor. Mandibles clicked softly as lullabies echoed across swing sets. Toddlers giggled, stacking blocks into tactical fortresses. Crime rates plummeted, property values soared, even pigeons seemed more respectful. Marissa watched in disbelief as Central Park became a parade of predator nannies. One loomed beside a sandbox, ensuring no child ate sand. Another crouched by the monkey bars, teaching toddlers ambush tactics. Stephen clapped happily, babbling in predator dialect. Marissa whispered, "What have we started?" Clisheria stood beside her, sipping chamomile tea from her world's best nanny mug. "It is the way of my people. Protect the young, elevate their status, and keep the laundry room empty." But not everyone was thrilled. Human babysitters began protesting outside City Hall. They carried signs, "No mandibles in childcare," and "Humans deserve jobs too." The mayor tried to intervene, but his own office had already hired a predator nanny for his twins. The protests fizzled. By the end of the month, New York had changed forever. Playdates were tactical symposiums. PTA meetings were run like military councils. And every parent knew, if you didn't have a predator nanny, your child was already behind. Marissa shook her head, half amused, half terrified. "I just wanted someone to watch Stephen. Now we've started a nanny arms race." Clisheria loomed, eyes glowing faintly. "Wars are inevitable, but the offspring will win." Stephen burped happily, gnawing on his tactical teething ring. Chapter 13. The Birthday Party. Marissa had imagined Stephen's first birthday would be simple. A few balloons, a cake, maybe some family and neighbors. But Clisheria had other ideas. "The offspring's first year is a victory," Clisheria declared, mandibles clicking with ceremonial gravitas. "It must be honored with ritual." Marissa blinked. "Ritual? I was thinking cupcakes." Clisheria shook her head. "Cupcakes are insufficient. There will be skull-shaped balloons. There will be plasma torches. There will be cake, but it will be fortified." The day of the party, the building's common room was transformed. Balloons floated overhead, but instead of pastel colors, they were black and silver, shaped like skulls and stars. Streamers hung like battle banners. A massive cake sat in the center, frosted in cheerful colors but reinforced with a glowing lattice of alien energy. Stephen clapped happily, wearing a tiny party hat that looked suspiciously like a tactical helmet. Neighbors arrived, wide-eyed. "Is this safe?" one whispered. Another muttered, "Don't mess with the Feldmans. Their babysitter has an invisibility cloak and apparently runs birthday parties like military campaigns." The entertainment was unforgettable. Clisheria led the children in predator party games. Instead of pin the tail on the donkey, they played ambush the piñata. Instead of musical chairs, they played strategic retreat. Stephen giggled through it all, crawling with tactical precision, babbling happily in predator dialect. Parents tried to smile, clutching their coffee cups nervously. "It's unique," one said. Another whispered, "I've never seen toddlers form a phalanx before." When it came time for the cake, Clisheria lit the candles, not with matches but with plasma torches. The flames glowed blue, humming softly. Marissa gasped, "That's a lot of fire." Clisheria nodded. "The offspring deserves intensity." Stephen squealed, clapping his hands. The children cheered. The parents pretended not to be terrified. By the end of the party, everyone agreed. It was unforgettable. Stephen fell asleep, clutching a balloon shaped like a skull. Marissa sat on the couch, exhausted but oddly proud. Clisheria loomed beside her, sipping chamomile tea from her world's best nanny mug. The offspring's first year has been honored. The ritual is complete. Marissa laughed, shaking her head. I just wanted cupcakes. Stephen snored gently, dreaming of plasma torches and tactical piñatas. Chapter 14. Trouble in the Building. The birthday party had been a triumph. Plasma torches, skull balloons, toddlers forming tactical phalanxes. But not everyone was thrilled. 2 days later, Marissa found a note taped to her door. It was written in shaky handwriting. Dear tenant, please keep the noise down. The chanting, the plasma torches, and the skull balloons were disruptive. Some of us have jobs. Management. Marissa sighed. Great. A noise complaint. Clisheria loomed behind her, mandibles clicking softly. Who dares complain? Marissa waved the note. The neighbors. They think the party was too loud. Stephen giggled, gnawing on his tactical teething ring. That evening, Clisheria decided to address the issue directly. She knocked on the door of the complaining neighbor, a man from 3C who had spent the party glaring from his window. The man opened the door, ready to argue. Listen, I don't care how special your kid is. That party was... Clisheria loomed. 7 feet of armored menace. Her mandibles clicked like castanets of doom. The man froze. His words died in his throat. Clisheria growled softly. The offspring's ritual was necessary. Noise is irrelevant. Safety is absolute. The man swallowed hard. Right. Totally fine. No problem. In fact, I enjoyed the chanting. Clisheria tilted her head. Good. You will never complain again. The man nodded furiously. Never. Ever. He slammed the door, locked it twice, and began Googling apartments in New Jersey. Word spread quickly. Neighbors whispered in the hallway. Did you hear? Someone complained about the Feldman's party. Another replied, Not anymore. He's moving. Mrs. Kowalski from 4B shook her head. Don't mess with the Feldmans. Their nanny has trophies. Even noise complaints disappear. Marissa sat on the couch that night, staring at the note. I guess that's one way to handle it. Clisheria sipped chamomile tea from her world's best nanny mug. Complaints are dishonorable. The offspring must be celebrated. The building is secure. Stephen burped happily, babbling in predator dialect. Marissa laughed, shaking her head. I just wanted a normal birthday party. Now we're scaring the neighbors into silence. Clisheria loomed, eyes glowing faintly. Silence is peace. Peace is victory. Chapter 15. Acceptance. Marissa had stopped questioning the strangeness of her life. She no longer flinched when Clisheria loomed in the doorway, mandibles clicking softly. She no longer worried about broken elevators, noisy neighbors, or muggers in the park. Her son was thriving. Stephen babbled in predator dialect, stacked blocks into fortresses, and had already been accepted to every Ivy League school before his first birthday. He slept soundly, laughed constantly, and seemed to radiate confidence. One evening, Marissa sat on the couch, watching Stephen crawl across the floor with tactical precision. She whispered, I just wanted a nanny. Now I have all of this. Clisheria crouched beside Stephen, eyes glowing faintly. The offspring is strong. He will conquer. You are safe. Marissa laughed, shaking her head. Safe, happy, and maybe a little terrifying. Neighbors whispered in the hallway, but no one complained anymore. The building was spotless, the laundry room obedient, the elevator flawless. Even the PTA had fallen in line. Marissa realized she had found the perfect nanny. not just for Stephen, but for herself. She leaned back, exhaling. Thank you. Clisheria sipped chamomile tea from her world's best nanny mug. It is the way of my people. Protect the young, elevate their status, and keep the laundry room empty. Stephen burped happily, gnawing on his tactical teething ring. Marissa smiled. For the first time since motherhood began, she felt not just relief, but acceptance. Epilogue. 13 years later. Stephen Feldman was 14 years old and already a legend. He stood in the lobby of their building, taller now, confident, his backpack slung over one shoulder. His acceptance letters had long since been framed, but today he was finally leaving for college. Marissa fussed over him, adjusting his jacket. "You're still my baby," she said, voice trembling. Stephen grinned. "Mom, I'm a freshman at Harvard, and Yale, and Princeton, simultaneously." Clisheria loomed beside him, mandibles clicking softly. She had aged gracefully, her armor polished, her presence as terrifying as ever. "The offspring is ready," she declared. "The universities await." Neighbors gathered in the hallway, whispering, "He's 14. He's going to college. All of them." At the airport, Stephen hugged his mother tightly. "Thanks for everything, Mom. And thanks for hiring her." Marissa laughed through her tears. "Best decision I ever made." Clisheria placed a claw gently on Stephen's shoulder. "You will conquer academia. Remember the lullabies. Remember the looming." Stephen nodded, eyes shining. "I will." Then he hugged her with the proper amount of predator energy. He walked toward the gate, confident, unstoppable, ready to face the world. Marissa watched him go, heart full. She turned to Clisheria. "We did it." Clisheria sipped chamomile tea from her world's best nanny mug. "It is the way of my people. Protect the young, elevate their status, and keep the laundry room empty." Marissa laughed, wiping her eyes. Some things never change. The end. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you.